clubs. Is there anything that you can take away from this campaign in sailing to Manchester United?
No, I think there's one little crossover, which is that you can't win the America's Cup unless you arrive at the America's Cup with a boat that could win the America's Cup. Same in Formula One. You put Max Verstappen in a Williams, he's not going to win a Formula One championship. And with football, it's the same with the squad in a way. That's the parallel for me, is you can't win anything in football if your squad isn't good enough to win something.
So Jim Ratcliffe, minority owner of Manchester United, had some pretty harsh words actually to say about the current Manchester United squad. Basically just talking and saying that, you can only do so much with the players that you've got. Now, in terms of Jim Ratcliffe, he's not someone that I wanted to bring in. I think there was an offer on the table from Qatar, and I really wanted that. I really wanted us to go that route. If you look at Qatar, what they were going to do in their business model, they were number one going to get rid of all the debt. So obviously the Glazers have got us in a financial nightmare. The Qataris were going to come in, immediately get rid of the debt. I think they would have done things, for the community. And not just that, when you've seen Middle Eastern ownership come into play, whether it's Newcastle, whether it's Manchester City, whether it's, they've got involved in boxing, they've got involved in golf, they don't mess around. These are also professional people. I think when people, just hear Qatar, they think immediately, oh, it's just money, money, money. No, these are professional people in place and they want to win things. So I really wanted Qatar to come in. Obviously, that didn't happen, and I don't think that's ever going to happen. So obviously, Sir Jim took a minority position in the club, and that means that the Glazers are still there. Now, with that being said, I still think that I would have to agree with actually Sir Jim's comments, and it's actually what I was saying in a previous video. A manager can only do as good as he can with the players that he's given. Now, and this really ties me into what I was saying about Ruben Amorim. Now, number one, I'm not a very patient person, especially I'm not very patient when it's been 10 years of failure for Manchester United. So I've got no reason to be patient. But with that being said, common sense tells you that if these players aren't good enough, you've got a new manager coming in, basically a quarter into the season. He's not going to have a transfer window. These are going to be he's got to work with these players. So I think for Manchester United fans, if we lose a game or if we lose quite big, you can't really put that on the manager. I think a manager has a lot of responsibility, but it does come to a point where these players can only give you so much. And I only think that Ruben Amorim can do so much with these players. And that's why this season almost is a write-off, because do I see Ruben Amorim turning Garnacho into a player that completely changes his decision-making? He becomes a 1-2 touch player. He knows when to dribble. He knows when to pass. Do I see Rashford having a renaissance under him? Do I see Højlund all of a sudden holding up the ball? No, I don't. Because some things that you either have or you do not have. Do I think Delo will get silly mistakes out of his game? I really don't think that. So, I really do have to agree with Sir Jim's comments on this one. And also to Manchester United fans, I think, unfortunately, I hate to say it, but we do have to be patient. Because I think Ruben Amorim, you can't really judge him on what he's going to do for the rest of the season. If he does well, fantastic. But if there's not a massive change, you can make structural changes as a manager. But ultimately, the players can only do what they can do. There's a reason why Arsenal spend £100 million on a player like Declan Rice instead of work with maybe a Sambi Lokonga or whoever it may be. Because to get the players that you want, to get the players to fit your system, and to ultimately get the players to deliver on a week-by-week basis, you have to spend tens, hundreds of millions now. You have to do it. So this team needs hundreds of millions spent on it. Yes, I understand that we spent a lot of money previously, but this team's not good enough. They're in 13th place. You saw against Chelsea. Who would you say is at this level? I think Casemiro's got a year or two left. I think Mazraoui had a good performance. I think De Ligt, you can potentially work with him, and then you're struggling. So I don't think that this is going to be a quick fix. I don't think it's going to be a situation where you sack a manager and instantly performances and results are going to change. Yeah, they showed a little bit more fight against Chelsea, but this set of players is not good enough. Xerxes, just because a new manager's coming in, is not going to get a yard of pace and start fighting all of a sudden. Like I said, there are things that you either have or you do not have. Just to finish on this one, I would agree with Sir Jim's comments on this one. I think he was quite brutal, but I think honesty is needed. You need to hear some harsh truths sometimes. So I don't really have problems with him saying that the squad is not good enough, because I think the results and that league table doesn't lie. So look, when Amorim comes in, I think we've got to be patient with him. I understand this season's almost a write-off, but Ruben Amorim, we need to judge him once we get the January transfer window. Then when we get the summer transfer window, let's start seeing where he is in the next season, because he'll be starting from day one on game one, and I think it's more fair and it makes more sense to judge him based off that, as opposed to already coming into a team with a bunch of players that don't have any cohesion and ultimately are not good enough for Manchester United.